Hier ist der Antritt, der Fahrradpodcast auf detektor.fm mit der ersten Februarausgabe 2026. Mein Name ist Gerolf Meyer und Leute, was ist das für ein Winter? Ich hätte nicht gedacht, dass ich in diesem Winter nochmal auf Skiern stehen werde, aber es ist passiert. Aus einem geplanten Radwochenende ist hier Ende Januar ein Skiwochenende geworden und ich bin mit 3 anderen Menschen unterwegs gewesen, die ich seit Jahren vom Radfahren kenne. Turns out, wir alle fahren auch Langlauf, also ab ins Isergebirge auf Loipen, wo sonst meine Radrouten entlang gehen. Wir sind da flexibel, es ist schön und winterlich gewesen und dann habe ich ein Video aus Berlin gesehen, das ein bisschen ähnlich ist, aber auch anders. Da fährt jemand mit Schlittschuhen auf einem Radweg. Ich kenne ungeräumte Radwege und Radstreifen, vermatschte und zugeparkte, aber als Eisbahn verkleidete hatte ich bis dahin noch nicht gesehen und das ist mal kurz lustig, aber eigentlich wirklich heftig. Manche Bilder, die ich so bekomme, die zeigen wirklich eine geschlossene Eisdecke auf Straßen und Wegen und dann wiederum lese ich einen Artikel über Radfahren in Oulu in Finnland, nicht weit entfernt vom Polarkreis und darin geht es nicht um Radfahren im Winter als Kuriosum, sondern als etwas ganz Alltägliches, Normales. Ziemlich schnell ist mir klar gewesen, dass ich über dieses Thema sprechen will und muss und genau das passiert in dieser Ausgabe. Bevor es losgeht, habe ich aber noch einen kleinen Beipackzettel. Das Gespräch in dieser Ausgabe habe ich auf Englisch geführt und so könnt ihr es auch hören. Wir machen das ja manchmal so als Ausnahme und haben euch auch immer mal wieder gefragt, wie gut das für euch funktioniert. Nach dem Gespräch mit Peter Weigel im letzten Jahr ist dann das Feedback gekommen, dass manche Fachbegriffe schwierig zu verstehen gewesen wären und das kann natürlich passieren. Wir haben dann das Gespräch mit dem Brompton-CEO Will Butler-Adams so geführt, dass Christian dessen englische Antworten sofort nochmal auf Deutsch zusammengefasst hat und wir haben unsere Fragen auch auf Deutsch ausgespielt, aber ganz ehrlich, ich finde das suboptimal. Denn dadurch, dass sowohl die Fragen als auch die Antworten direkt im Gespräch in 2 Sprachen aufgenommen werden, killt das für mich den Gesprächsfluss und es ist nur schwer möglich, schnell und direkt zu reagieren. Außerdem dauern diese Gespräche dann relativ lang, obwohl nicht mehr Inhalt drin steckt. Ich habe mich hier in der Redaktion nochmal beraten und für dieses Gespräch mit dem finnischen Stadtplaner und Mitgründer der Winter Cycling Federation, Pekka Tahkola, folgende Lösung gefunden. Ihr hört das Gespräch so, wie ich es geführt habe, auf Englisch und im Artikel auf der Detektor.fm Webseite findet ihr ein deutsches Transkript. Denn seit ein paar Ausgaben könnt ihr unter jedem Antrittartikel ein Transkript lesen und in dem Fall habe ich es einfach noch durch einen Übersetzer gejagt und habe drüber gelesen. Oder besser, ich werde drüber gelesen haben, denn Artikel und Transkript entstehen erst, wenn diese ganze Ausgabe zusammengebacken ist. Diesmal macht das mein lieber Kollege Tim Schmutzler und jetzt schalten wir gleich nach Finnland in eine Winterlandschaft und hören, wie lange Winter, viel Schnee und Radfahren zusammen funktionieren können. Ich wünsche euch viel Spaß und spring mit euch in eine Schneewehe aus frischem Pulverschnee. Let's go!
Antritt. Der Fahrradpodcast von Detektor.fm.
Es ist kalt in Deutschland. Seit Wochen haben wir Temperaturen um den Gefrierpunkt. Schnee und Eis sind in diesem Winter mit Macht zurückgekommen. Und in Berlin fährt jemand Schlittschuh auf dem Fahrradweg, wie ich gesehen habe. Keine gute Fahrradzeit, könnte man meinen, und keine guten Bedingungen in vielen Städten und Gemeinden. Doch es gibt Regionen in Europa, die sind Frost, Schnee und Eis gewohnt und die Menschen dort, die fahren trotzdem Fahrrad. Zum Beispiel in Oulu, einer finnischen Großstadt 250 Kilometer südlich des Polarkreises. Dort lebt und arbeitet Pekka Tahkola, Stadtplaner und Mitgründer der Winter Cycling Federation. Wie das funktioniert in Oulu mit dem Winterradfahren und was diese Winterfahrradleute machen und wollen, darüber spreche ich mit Pekka in dieser Ausgabe. Das Gespräch führen wir in Englisch und ich sage Hello Pekka, great to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Pekka, what's the temperature these days in Oulu?
It's about minus 20 now.
Okay, is that warm, cold for you? How's that usual?
It's so regular.
Okay, usual Oulu winter. How long is this period of freezing temperatures in Oulu usually?
Yeah, it depends. So if the winter is good, then it could be even from October to April, like even end of April sometimes. But for example, this winter, the beginning of winter was really warm. So we had like plus temperatures still in December also. unfortunately.
Yeah, okay. So I was just going to ask you, if you say the winter is good, then for you that means a long, cold period?
Yes, and that the temperatures stay below zero all the time.
Okay, we need to talk about that. I found Oulu being called the Winter Cycling Capital of the world. How come?
Well, we are by far the best city in the world when it comes to cycling in winter, like in proper winter also.
Okay, we need to take a look at this best cycling city in the world, which is quite. I mean, it sounds ambitious. Speaking about ambitions, in Germany we have freezing temperatures, and my parents just warned me again 2 days ago to please not use my bike because it's dangerous. Why are you promoting winter cycling?
Because it's fast, easy, and comfortable and safe.
Okay.
When done right.
Yeah, here in Germany we have cycle paths that are covered in ice. My parents are right; it really is dangerous to ride there. What about cycle paths in Oulu? Do you ride on them these days?
Of course.
Yeah, okay. Just from this German perspective, in my German introduction, I mentioned somebody who was ice skating on a cycle path in Berlin, and there's this video on YouTube. I can link to it.
I actually saw that already.
Okay. So, see, how's it safe in Oulu? What do you do there? What do?
Yeah, we've got this thing called maintenance. I don't know if you guys heard of that, but
yeah.
Yeah, but we do that on our bicycle infrastructure, and that's the first priority in all maintenance.
Yeah, so give us a like, maybe for us it's kind of strange to hear, or we don't really have an idea of how winter maintenance, especially winter maintenance, looks like, if it shall work out in the end. So tell us a bit about that. How does Oulu manage like winter cycling and this maintenance thing?
Well, that's a long story, of course, but I guess we got time. So,
yeah, we got time.
Yeah. So we've got about 1,000 kilometers of bicycle parts here, and like 99% of them are physically separated from all motor traffic, and they are their own paths, so fahrradväg, and not bicycle lanes. We have only 600 meters of on-street bicycle lanes on this city. So everything else is segregated and it's safe. And they are also wide. So they are like minimum 3 meters and maximum like 7 meters, 7 meters. And all of the bicycle infrastructure is divided into different maintenance categories, depending on how important it is. So we've got the maintenance hierarchy there, which makes sense. I'm guessing that you have the same, at least for car traffic.
Yeah, it seems so. Yeah.
Yeah. So regionally, we've got this superclass maintenance here, which is about 170 kilometers, which has 24/7 maintenance. And whenever there's 2 centimeters of snow, it needs to be gone within 3 hours, even during the snowfall. So if it continues snowing, they will continue plowing 24/7 if needed. And the accumulation of snow must never exceed 4 centimeters, not even for a second. And this superclass maintenance contract has several other interesting criteria and requirements. For example, all the maintenance contractor workers, even those who do not drive the maintenance vehicles, but all the workers have to ride on the very paths that they are maintaining. And we've decided on this because maintenance of bicycle and footpaths is first and foremost customer service business, and we must understand it as such. So if you are providing a customer service business, you must know your own product, and you can't know your own product unless you actually try it yourself. So this has significantly improved the dedication on quality on the maintenance. Not that it wasn't good already, but this has improved it even further. Also, we've got voluntary anonymous maintenance agents, so to say, who cycle on these routes on regular basis Yeah, just going to work or doing their errands or riding for fun or whatever. We don't care what the reason is, as long as they're cycling. Anyway, they are anonymously reporting about the quality of the winter maintenance, and if they are happy, the maintenance contractor will get bonuses. If they are not happy, they will get sanctions.
Okay. So just for me to understand, if you talk about customer service, is it like that the city understands its inhabitants who want to ride the bike or walk on the footpaths as customers? Is this the relationship?
Yeah, we understand them as customers, yes.
Okay, if you say we, then what's your part in that, you personally, in the city of Oulu?
So I'm a private consultant, and I work for a small company called Navigo, and we help cities around the world with their mobility and making them more livable, more walkable, more sustainable in their mobility. So we would be happy to help any city around the world, including Germany, of course.
Yeah.
And we have in the past as well. Anyway, so we've helped the city of Oulu a lot in lots of things related, not only cycling, but most of things, of course, cycling and walking. So winter maintenance and bicycle superhighways and different campaigns and infrastructure, signposting, designing, auditing plans, and lots of different things.
Yeah, I don't exactly remember the term. I guess you called it super psychopaths or something. Like the thing you mentioned about the 2 centimeters of snow, which need to be plowed within 3 hours.
Yes.
Does this refer to this like super psychopaths or to others? And
So this, what I told you about the centimeters and time and all this criteria where they have to cycle on the paths, it's about the highest priority of maintenance. We call it superclass maintenance network. And it's about 170 kilometers out of our network. That's the highest priority. And then we've got the regular first class, which still has the limits like 3 centimeters, and it's been plowed before 7 a.m., all of it completely. I can't remember how much kilometers is in that class, but I think it's over 300 also in that. And then there's like the regular second class, which also needs to be plowed like right after the first class. And so there's like 3 classes of maintenance there. There's a super class, and then there's the first class and second class. And both the super class and the first class come before any motor traffic. And when you think about it, it makes sense. When we got a couple of centimeters of snow there on the bicycle paths, it's already making it more difficult for people to walk or people to cycle, not even to mention if you need to use some mobility aids, like a walker or a wheelchair or something. But if you got like 3 centimeters, even 5 centimeters of snow, you can still drive your car easily. It's not as urgent for them. And like I said in many of my interviews, from the winter maintenance priorities, you can actually see which people your city wants to protect and prioritize. And if you only care about car traffic, then you're going to get car traffic, obviously.
yeah, I can imagine people who are hearing that, maybe in Germany, maybe in other, like wherever they are, they could think, oh, wow, having 3 hours to plow the snow and be on those 170k of superclass cycle paths, that's expensive. There's some cost behind that. But maybe that's just one perspective. You just smiled when I said this, or you laughed. So what's your view on the cost of this?
Yeah. So first of all, you should never even think about winter maintenance of bicycle and footpaths as a cost. It's an investment, and it's an extremely profitable invest to well-being and healthcare of the citizens. Like we are enabling them to move about in their daily life, and you're enabling the active lifestyle, which is like one of the best possible ways of preventive healthcare. And even as an investment, it's very cheap here.
So does it mean that pays off because you don't have people in the hospital who maybe broke their bones or something like that, and all those costs add up?
Yeah, also that, but also preventive healthcare so that people stay active, so they are more healthy in their general life.
From our perspective, well, I mentioned the conditions we have here right now. And we have like bike lanes here which aren't plowed, and the snow is like 2 weeks old, and it's lying there, it's overfrozen, it's kind of, well, I can see that in at least in some parts of my city, I try to ride my bike, the city doesn't care for, and I hear this from other cities as well. So that sounds pretty bike friendly, pretty clever, pretty maybe we could call it progressive, what's happening in Oulu. Is there a history to that? Has it always been like this, or is there some kind of political decision-making process involved?
Well, kind of both. But we have to remember that in like 1920s, 1930s, 1940s, probably every single Western city was a cycling city. And so were we, although at that time we were just a tiny village and we all only started to grow like properly in 1950s, 1960s, which also was the strongest era of automobilization here in the far north. It was much later here than it was for you, for example. You had the automobilization period much earlier. But because of World War II and so on, after that, we had a lot of like debt and so on. After 40s and like the structure of our city started to properly change like in 50s, 60s. But at that time when our city was starting to grow like big, the city also hired their first traffic engineer, and they luckily chose a guy who understood the importance of walking and cycling. And it was a difficult task for him because everybody was like just in favor of automobiles, thinking that that's the future. And the Finnish traffic designing, traffic planning was very much looking at USA at that time. And which we all know that it's not the way to go, absolutely not. He had also actually studied in USA and was devastated by what he saw there already back then in 1960s. So when we started to build like our first bicycle infrastructure as late as in like late 1960s, early 1970s, where they also made the first bicycle master plan for the city, they also designed all the infrastructure from the very beginning in a way that the maintenance equipment fits the infrastructure, so that you can actually use tractors or whatever machines you are deciding to use on the infrastructure they are designed to be used on. So around the world, I've seen so much of bicycle infrastructure that's full of obstacles and bottlenecks and places where maintenance equipment cannot actually physically get through. And that's what makes maintenance expensive and slow in those places. If you can't actually use the machines, then you'll need like manual labor or a separate smaller machine to come there to just do those 5 meters, which are too narrow for the regular machine to pass through. So it's all about planning and designing.
Yeah, I want to talk to you about those other cities and the work you're doing with them and with the Winter Cycling Federation later. But first, let's talk about Oulu a bit more. You mentioned the cycling master plan, and it sounds like you have pretty good conditions for cycling. So who is riding bikes in winter these days in Oulu? Is it just people like you with some kind of special relationship to bikes, or who are the people you see on bikes every day?
Everybody.
What does that mean? Like 100% mode share? No.
Not 100%, no, obviously. We are still a pretty car-centric city, and there's a lot of like suburban hellscape here. So we are, in terms of like land use and planning, we are still like pretty like American suburban dystopian nightmare, so to say, but with decent cycling conditions. So the latest numbers I remember from amount of people, or like the share of people who cycle. So I think it was 77% of our population that uses a bicycle at least sometimes, like year round, and 42% in the wintertime. So 42% of our population uses a bicycle at least sometimes in the winter. and that spreads pretty evenly like across the population. So it's like all kinds of people who are cycling. And if you've done your cycling planning and infrastructure right in the city, then you will see equal amount of women and men cycling, maybe even more women. And that's the case in Oulu as well. The gender distribution is slightly over 50% of the people cycling are women. But if you look at places where cycling infrastructure is, so to say, underdeveloped, if it's dangerous, if it's difficult, if it's not comfortable, then you'll see like much more men. And oftentimes you could say that you see so-called mammals, MAMIL, so middle-aged men in lycra. And nothing wrong in that. Whatever makes you cycle, whatever you want to wear, there's no shaming in that, and it's absolutely good. Whatever makes you cycle, go for it. But if you don't see children, if you don't see elderly people, if you don't see women in your transportation system, cycling or walking, then you know that you haven't done the things right.
Yeah, it's interesting you're mentioning children. I also read that there are many kids riding their bikes to school. Has it always been like that? And how many? Do you have some kind of mode share there? Do you have some numbers?
Yeah, so the modal share for cycling in Oulu is 22. And in the wintertime, it's like 12. So percent of all trips made in the city made by bicycle. So just that's the amount of trips. And when we look at study trips, that includes trips to school and also like further degrees of education, including university as well. So I think the cycling modal share is like 60% or something. And in some schools, it's like 80, or also it could be like 90% of kids come to school using active forms of transportation. So that would include also walking. And in the wintertime, it could include kick sleds or skis or whatever also.
So for these kids, I mean, those are huge numbers. For these kids, is that something like just something usual, like they're used to riding the bike, it's something normal? Or is there also some sense of pride that we are riding in winter in cycling capital, winter cycling capital of the world, as you call themselves? Is there some kind of, do they know that they are special from our perspective here in Germany?
I don't think so, no. And if you ask the same question 10 years ago, then definitely not. No pride. It was just like a regular thing that you do. It's just our culture. Well, not just our culture. It's of course a result of decisions made and planning made in the past. But nobody who is there cycling from A to B, be it a kid, be it an adult, be it an elderly person, nobody would think about this pride or something. But like because of the work me and my colleagues have been doing the last 15 years about, for example, telling about Oulu in opportunities like this, or going abroad in many places, conferences and so on, and being invited to talk about cycling and the Winter Cycling Federation, nowadays there is knowledge here about. I wouldn't say that we would be anything special. It's just that other people around the world, other cities are not making things as good as they should.
Which would also mean like every other city could do so, or could do like in a way that you're doing. How are people dressing to ride bikes in winter in Oulu these days? What do they wear?
Then again, let's make a distinction between for going like a sporty ride and so on, and going your errands. So if you're going to work, if you're going to school, if you're going to buy some groceries, visiting a friend, then people dress for the end purpose. So whatever you need at the end destination. Like nothing special. Okay, they in the wintertime when it's colder, they might add a layer or two or add a thicker jacket and use a hat and use gloves. So people put on more clothes if it's colder. Simple as that.
Yeah, usual winter clothes. Nothing special.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
And then again, if you go to ride 200 kilometers in minus 20, then it's of course different. But you have to remember that most trips in cities are like 1 to 10 kilometers, 1 to 15 kilometers, and so on.
Yeah, but sounds like that's something you're doing from time to time, 200K in the winter.
Sometimes, yeah, but that's a completely different thing.
Yeah, okay. We'll get to that. I was like, I'm a maps guy. I looked on the map.
Yeah.
Where's Oulu? I saw that you're close to the Arctic Circle. And I was wondering if maybe those constant temperatures below 0 degrees in Oulu make it a bit easier, because here we have this circle of freezing and thawing and freezing again. Do you think that contributes to our slippery situation?
Yeah, so that's a common misconception that we wouldn't have those freeze-thaw cycles. We just are very lucky to not have them right now. But when the fall turns into winter, when the winter turns to spring, we've got the same weather what you are having now. So there's long periods of freeze and thaw cycles here also. They just happen in usually different months than for you. So like I mentioned, the beginning of this winter, we had very warm weather, so that we had like October, November, and December, 3 months full of those freeze and thaw cycles. And of course, that makes it more demanding and more challenging for maintenance. But you must prepare for that. So you can easily do that. So you can maintain your infrastructure. You just need to prepare for it. So first of all, like I told you earlier, it begins with the planning. So that first of all, you have enough space for the maintenance machinery. Then the second most important thing is drainage. Because when you have when anything melts, then we have water, and the water must not stay on the path. It must flow away, because otherwise it will refreeze and create these ice routes that you have there, like skating routes and so on. And it oftentimes will freeze unevenly because people are riding their bikes on this water or slush, which is then about to freeze, and while it's freezing, so it becomes very uneven surface full of tire ruts, which is going to be impossible to ride or walk. So you need to have good drainage to get rid of the water. And you need to have space for the snow. If you have a lot of snowfall, you need to be able to put it somewhere. So you must plan the city accordingly. Or then you must transport the snow away, which is again more expensive and causes more emissions. But if you don't have the space for that, that's the only option that you can do. And if, like as a last resort, if you actually do get ice on your paths anyway, some cities would use salt or other chemicals. I'm not a fan of that at all. I understand that in some climates they might be useful or better options than what we are doing. But for example, on our bicycle infrastructure, salt is forbidden. We don't use salt at all here on bicycle infrastructure. And on the motor infrastructure, only very little in like a few problem spots on the city street network, and on the national highways network, they sometimes use a little bit of that also. But not on the bicycle infrastructure here in the north. It's different in the south of Finland. There, for example, in Helsinki, they have some sweep salting going on there. But what we use to prevent slipperiness is just gritting. So it's sand or gravel to add friction, and all that material must be bicycle tire friendly. It's in the contract that this material must not cause any damage to vehicles, including bicycle tires, because the cheapest material for friction prevention is crushed bedrock, and that has very sharp edges, meaning it's very efficient in preventing slipperiness, but it's also very efficient in destroying bicycle tires and dog paws and whatever. And that's forbidden on our paths as well.
So sounds like something. Well, I just read from people in Berlin, for example, who have these ice landscapes in front of their houses, on their streets, on their cycle paths, and they seem to not know what to do with those. They're just waiting for them to thaw in, don't know, a week, 2 weeks, or whenever it gets warmer here. But it sounds like it's all manageable if I listen to you.
It is. And I can't believe that you've never had winter before.
Yeah, I've seen some pictures. Yeah. No, we had. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so you've had time to like prepare, and it's not a surprise to you that you get winter and winter conditions. And I, of course, understand that our climates are very different, our winters are very different, and it doesn't make sense for you to keep a huge fleet of maintenance vehicles and personnel there just in case if we happen to have 1 week or 5 weeks of winter this year, and the next winter we wouldn't have any. I understand it completely.
Yeah, of course. Well, we had way stronger winters here, and of course it sounds to me like it's a question of political will, of the angle you approach the subject from. Like you mentioned that you shouldn't think about cost because it's saving in the end, but it's about health and all that you mentioned. So those naive questions from somebody living in suboptimal cycling conditions in the winter, from somebody like me, do you know these kind of questions as somebody who is working with the Winter Cycling Federation from other cities?
Sorry, what kind of questions?
Those naive winter cycling questions, those kind of questions. How do you do this in Oulu? You have all that snow and all that ice, and our city is overfrozen. What to do?
Yeah, we've heard these oftentimes, and we also organize master classes here on site, so people can actually come here and see how we're doing it and try themselves, cycle themselves, and speak with the maintenance people, speak with the planners and designers and city officials and politicians. So if you're interested about that, you're welcome to join our master classes. So more information about that on masterclass.city.
Oh, I myself would be very much interested to take a look there. But stepping away from me, let's talk about this Winter Cycling Federation. What do you do there? What's the goal?
So we aim to make cycling around the year possible for everybody, in short. So back like 15 years ago, me and my colleague Timo, we came up with the idea of organizing Winter Cycling Congress, an international congress here in Oulu, to actually promote our know-how and possibilities of cycling here in the winter and our winter cycling capital of the world to the world, so that everybody else would also know it, and that we could also encourage other cities, other people to improve their conditions and winter maintenance and infrastructure and so on. And we held the first ever International Winter Cycling Congress here in Oulu back in 2013. After that, we founded the Winter Cycling Federation with some of the attendants from around the world, and we had the next conference in 2014 in Winnipeg, Canada. And after that, we've been into many different locations around the world, and we are currently open for applications for 2027 and 2028. If your city wants to host the International Winter Cycling Congress, then just let us know. So Winter Cycling Congress is like the main act of our federation, but we also have done lots of other things related to winter cycling around the world.
Yeah, so you mentioned you founded this in Oulu, and it was you and a colleague who had the idea. Who are the members today? Is it still something Finnish or is it international?
No, it's completely international. So we've got a board of... is it 8 members, I think? And we've got members from USA and Canada and Netherlands and Finland. Did I forget somebody? I hope not. I'm sorry if I did.
Okay, you mentioned the Winter Cycling Congress. So I understand this is something that takes place annually on the topic?
Usually, but with the COVID and so on, we had a couple of years off.
Yeah, and then I found something that's called Icebreaker. What's Icebreaker?
That's a good question. So we had this icebreaker event, at least, if that's what you'd call it.
Yeah, it's on your website. It says Icebreaker 2025 on the Winter Cycling Federation website.
Yeah, that could have been our online event, online congress, like, which was also aimed to like more general population.
Yeah, it's this congress. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. This Winter Cycling Capital, which is kind of it's a strong term, and I guess it's useful for the city as well in terms of marketing and making Oulu known. Do you know who came up with the idea for that?
My colleague Timo.
Was that during the time you founded the Winter Cycling Federation?
No, it was earlier. We founded the Federation 2014, so a year after the first Congress.
Okay, and what's the idea behind that? Like, let's put our city on the map globally. Let's talk about what we love. Let's talk about what we earn our living with or whatever.
No, it's more like encouraging other cities and other people around the world that it's possible, it's feasible to make cycling possible and easy and fast and comfortable around the year. And like use our city as an example, as an encouragement to other cities. Like you've probably heard these things that people are saying that you can't cycle in the winter and they've never tried themselves and so on. And people are saying that we've got 8 months of winter and 18 meters of snow and minus 100 degrees Celsius and so on. And so you can't cycle there. So look at Oulu, there's 1,000 kids cycling to that school every single day when it's minus 20, minus 30, whatever.
So let's talk a bit about you personally. This passion for winter cycling, which you clearly have, is that something that you always had in your life, or is it something that you discovered?
I wouldn't even necessarily say a passion for winter cycling. Maybe I have some of that, yeah, maybe. But since my so-called cycling season started in 1983, maybe, and it's never ended. So I was grown into it. And we were just using bicycles around the years because why on earth would you stop? There's no reason to stop, absolutely. If you just continue riding your bikes, it makes sense and so on. But the passion to it, like understanding like how unfortunately unique conditions we've got here, of course, makes me personally appreciate it even more. But also like how beautiful it is out there with all those trees covered in frost and seeing the sea in front of Oulu is frozen. You can go ride your bicycle on the sea and you can reach places where you can't go in the summertime on a bicycle, and seeing all these colors and this whiteness and this snow and hearing the sounds and so on. It's just so magical, so beautiful, so wonderful.
It's interesting you're talking about this being wonderful, but you also said, unfortunately, those unfortunate conditions, if I understood you right. So
no, it's unfortunate that we are unique, that not other cities can be like this also.
Now I understand. Oh, okay. And what kind of rides do you do these days?
Anything. Like earlier today, I went out just for a bike ride to try to do a little bit of filming of kids cycling to school in minus 20. Filming in minus 20, it has its own challenges with the equipment, with the batteries, and with your hands freezing and so on. So I'm hoping I did get some good material. And then I'll just probably go for a grocery store soon and maybe go ride on the sea a little bit if I want to. And yeah, like, you know, this is a good example. So in some cities, you may have your bicycle network may have winter closures so that not all the paths are maintained throughout the winter time, and they are closed for the winter. So instead of that, because we don't have any of those closures, everything is maintained. Instead of that, we have winter cycling, our winter extensions. So our network is even larger in the winter time than in the summertime because the sea freezes, the river freezes. faces and so on. So we can have shortcuts over the river. We can have shortcuts and paths on the frozen sea. For example, there's this primarily recreational volunteers maintained ice path from Oulu towards the airport, which is actually like a 2-3 kilometer shortcut if you want to cycle to the airport. And it's only for people walking and cycling and kick sledding and skating and cycling and skiing, not for motor vehicles.
What kind of bikes do you ride on that? Like, if talking about winter cycling, then one instantly thinks of maybe fat bike or spike tires or technology like this. Do you use any of these?
For some adventures, sometimes yes, but like most of my riding, not at all. So you don't need anything like that here because we've got maintenance. So you can use just the same bike around the year, same tires around the year and so on. Then again, if you have icy conditions like your city does, I would have studded tires as well because it seems like you haven't got any maintenance and you only got these ice skating pads there. So studded tires are great on ice, but you shouldn't have ice on your pads to begin with. And if you feel more comfortable riding on a fat bike or with the studded tires, absolutely go for it. Anything that makes you cycle, go for it. But your city should take care that about the thing that you should not need those. You shouldn't have to need them. If you want, absolutely. But you shouldn't have to need them.
Is this maybe the most prominent misconception about winter cycling, that you need special gear? Or is there even something else?
I don't know, like maybe even more common is that you can't cycle in the winter. I don't know. But yeah, I completely understand that in many cities around the world where you have winter and when you haven't got proper maintenance, you might need a fat bike. In some places, it helps. Sure, it's more stable and goes through worse obstacles and so on, but your city shouldn't be like that you need a fat bike.
Yeah,
so like if I go to my office or if I go meet some people, I'll just take my Rad.
So Rad, we need to add, this is like the German term, so it's a usual like a granny city bike.
Yeah. I love old bikes, so I've got this one Rad. I was last using it from 1941, so it's 85 years old.
Nice. And you also mentioned long distance riding. So are you one of those randonneurs?
I don't know about randonneurs. I've officially done one brevet in my life, but I've done some ultra distance events and so on. Like this event in Finland called Ruska, which means the autumn foliage when the trees turn into yellow and red and all those beautiful colors and so on. And this ride happens in mid-September. It goes from usually through Finland from south to north, also adding some neighboring countries oftentimes. And it's about 2,000 kilometers you got 8 days and 4 hours usually to do that. So I've done that. I would love to do the transcontinental and some other long distance journeys when I have time. But then again, I also just love going on my bike and look, oh, that looks interesting. Let's go there. Where does this road lead to? Going to interesting places, looking for old abandoned infrastructure, old railway lines, old railway tunnels, and abandoned places, and exploring.
Sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
I was also wondering, what are you doing in summer? Do you miss the winter? Do you miss snow?
Oh, I do actually. Yes, but luckily our summer is short.
How short? Give us an idea.
Well, it depends, of course, but depends also on what you count as summer. And it's very different when you go to south of Finland or north of Finland, because we are 1,300 kilometers from south to north. So it could be that there's already summer temperatures in the south in end of April, and there's perfect snow for riding adventures on frozen landscapes in the Lapland in May. And then it could be that it's already plus 20 here in May, or it could be plus 30 in June. Sometimes, I hope not, but that's way too warm. But Yeah, summer is also beautiful. It's very good riding here also, and we are a wonderful summer cycling city as well.
Do you need lights in Oulu in the summer if you like ride through the night, ride in the evening?
No, you don't.
So you could do like 24 hours long distance ride without putting on a light.
Yeah.
What a special place. What a special city.
Yeah. And then they say that isn't it depressing when you have so little sunlight in the wintertime? And shortest daylight time is like 3.5 hours here. But there's the snow that more than makes up for it. It's so beautiful. It makes everything so well illuminated and so more luminous, so to say. And of course, all of our bicycle infrastructure is illuminated. Of course.
You said all your bicycle infrastructure is illuminated, so not just those superclass?
No, everything. Like 99 point something %.
Wow, sounds impressive.
Yeah, and I honestly, when I learned that other cities are not doing the same, I was actually honestly surprised, because it was always the default for me that of course they are illuminated.
Do you see any possible scenario for you personally to move south?
No. I sometimes even think about migrating further up north because like I said, the beginning of this winter was so warm here. I love to travel, and especially on my bike and using my bike and trains in combination and so on. So I'm thinking about like making a cycle tour in Central Europe, maybe April, May or something. I don't know.
Wonderful. If you do this, let us know.
Absolutely.
I could show you some routes. Is there a last winter cycling tip that we didn't mention in this conversation? Or did we cover all the topics?
Just go outside and enjoy.
Wonderful. That's what we're trying to do. Thanks, Pekka, for telling us about cycling in Oulu and winter cycling in general, and giving us an idea about the passion of winter cycling. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
We have this thing called maintenance. Der Satz bleibt mir im Gedächtnis und auch mein Eindruck, das scheint alles keine Zauberei zu sein, wie die das dort in Oulu machen. Dass die Leute, die die Wege räumen, auch selbst darauf fahren müssen, das klingt für mich so pragmatisch wie einleuchtend, und mir scheint, es kommt vor allem auf das Leitbild an. Wie soll diese Stadt, dieser Landkreis, diese Siedlung funktionieren, wenn es schneit, und was müssen wir dafür tun? Ein paar Antworten habe ich aus dem Gespräch gezogen und ihr vielleicht auch. Schreibt uns gern, wie ihr das findet, und gern auch, wie das Gespräch auf Englisch und die Ergänzung durch ein deutsches Transkript für euch funktionieren. Ich habe das Gespräch mit Pekka Tahkola am Dienstag dieser Woche aufgenommen, und als ich abends aus dem Fenster geschaut habe, da habe ich meinen Augen kaum getraut. Ich habe gedacht, es wäre schon wieder Weihnachten. Da hat sich eine frische Schneeschicht über Leipzig gelegt, und es hat diesen einen Moment auf der Kreuzung vor meinem Haus gegeben, an dem noch kein Fahrrad und kein Auto und auch kein Mensch drüber gelaufen oder gefahren ist, und natürlich auch kein Räumfahrzeug. Ich bin dann sofort rausgegangen und habe mit Kopfhörern auf den Ohren nach einem passenden Song für diese Ausgabe gesucht. Und das ist für mich jede Woche ja nochmal extra spannend, denn manchmal weiß ich lange vorher, was wir spielen werden, und manchmal ist die Suche aber auch quälend, und manchmal passt es einfach. Als ich die erste Fußspur in den Schnee in meinem Viertel gelegt habe, habe ich an Rue Royale denken müssen, wo auch immer der Gedanke hergekommen ist. Und dann finde ich bei denen einen mir unbekannten Song namens In the Bleack Midwinter, Snow on Snow. Und zumindest in dem Moment hat er extrem gut gepasst. Ich sage in dem Moment, weil ich dann rausgefunden habe, dass es die Vertonung eines Weihnachtsgedichtes der englischen Poetin Christina Rossetti ist. Aber vielleicht muss man das auch gar nicht wissen. Was allein alles im Thema Schnee drin steckt, finde ich schon wieder total faszinierend. Von richtig gefährlichen Bedingungen für Rad- und Fußverkehr, die sicher viele von euch gerade in diesen Wochen kennen, bis zu verzauberten und ein bisschen stillgelegten Städten. Und dabei haben wir noch nicht mal über Reifengeräusche gesprochen. Das machen wir ein andermal. Ich hoffe, ihr kommt sturzfrei durch diese Woche und habt auch diese Momente, in denen Winterlandschaften einfach nur schön und beeindruckend sind. Wenn ihr wollt, hören wir uns wieder am 13. Februar. Ihr erreicht uns unter antritt@detektor.fm auf Instagram und Mastodon. Und wenn ihr mögt, was wir tun, empfehlt uns weiter oder gebt uns eine gute Bewertung auf der Podcast-Plattform eurer Wahl. Ich wünsche euch auf jeden Fall gute Fahrt, verliert die Handschuhe nicht oder die Bar mit. Wir verstehen uns. Macht's gut, bis nächste Woche. Ciao.
Frosty wind made moan. Earth stood hard as iron, water like a stone. Snow had fallen, snow and snow, snow and snow, in the bleak midwinter. Angels and archangels may have gathered there, cherubim and seraphim from the winter air, but his mother only in a maiden bliss worship the beloved, worship with a kiss, with snow and snow, 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 snow and snow. What can I give you? Poor as I am, if I were a shepherd, I would bring a lamb. If I were a wise man, I would do my part. Yet why